So as we know, economists are trying to answer questions. We're trying to answer very specific micro-level questions, and we're going to try to answer very large macro-style questions. So let's look at a couple of areas that we might try to weigh in on how to solve a problem or how to create a solution. One of those, suppose we look at traffic congestion. Everybody gets really uptight and very anxious when you're sitting in traffic. How might an economist look at trying to fix this problem of traffic congestion? First, we're going to be very straightforward in how we look at it. If we look at our car and how much space it takes up and decreases the distance between other vehicles on the highway. So we're going to be very objective and get a lot of information. What's the normal reaction to a shorter distance between moving cars is to slow down. Right? So if we add another car to traffic, we're going to slow everybody down. So when you enter the highway, everybody else has to slow down. One possible solution to this is to try to figure out how to get an individual driver to incorporate how much more time everybody else has to spend on the highway. One solution an economist might look at is to try to add a tax to driving on the road. If you add a tax to driving on a highway or driving on a road, then each individual driver has to try to look at their effect on other drivers. Now, the job for the economist is to figure out how much is the appropriate tax. And we're going to look at how an economist might answer that question very soon. A larger scale question or a more global question might be poverty and what policies might lower poverty and might increase standards of living around the world. This becomes very important when we look at poverty in Africa. We know that a lot of the countries in Africa have very low standards of living, at least compared to the more developed countries around the world. But Africa has the second largest continent, both in area and in population, and accounts for 12% of the world's human population. So if we can attack poverty and try to figure out how to reduce poverty around the world, it's going to have a huge impact on a very large portion of the human population. And then we might look at any given economy and try to explain how it is that an economy goes through a business cycle, or when we might enter into a recession, and then more proactively how we might try to get out of a recession. So we can look back at the experience of the U.S. economy over the last several decades. Over the last several decades, policymakers seem to know how to restore growth and prosperity. But then we saw a financial crisis and a recession that began in 2007 that shook the confidence of people around the United States and around the world. And this financial crisis was so severe and the recession so deep that it made us question how we might react to those things as policymakers. So we're going to look back at what happened during that recession to try to get a better idea of how major countries in the world, how we might give more and better policies to counteract a severe recession.